So I'm going to start the session by turning it over to our esteemed Legislative Committee Chair, Pat Randall. Pat, take it away.
Hey, everybody. It is so wonderful to see every one of you, every 1, 2, 3, 4, right on up, one of you here today. And I have the privilege of introducing our speakers. We got some good speakers this evening. And so to get going, let me just go on with our first speaker for today. And he actually is a person I have known for a few years. Now, he might not know me, but I know him. So I have been around him and I know what he can do. All right. He is none other than Al Campos. Now, if I mispronounce your name, please excuse me right up front. Okay.
You're good.
All right. He's the executive director of the National Retired Teachers Association. Now, this is the AARP educator community, and the NRTA, as it's called, serves the interests of retired educators. That's all of us, right? And all these folk are, we all know this, individuals age 50 plus and their families. These are the ones that NRTA serves. Moreover, he serves as NRTA's national spokesperson, and he represents over 850,000 members nationwide. A lot of people. Wonderful. Now, before joining NRTA, he was a lobbyist in what we know as the National Education Association. Now, all of us here are members of that, so we know the NEA very well. And he was responsible for advancing their concerns. I did want to say these things: taxation, pension, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, healthcare, and school finance. And that's all about retired folk right there. Now, Mr. Campos has all of the right degrees and all of that kind of stuff. I want y'all to know that. So he has his Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from State University of New York at Albany. And he's a Juris Doctor. That means lawyer, right?
Yes. You got it. You're good.
From Western New England College of Law. And he's a member of the U.S. Supreme Court in D.C. And he also has his Connecticut bars. So the one last thing we'll see about, you all know there's a whole lot more that goes to Mr. Campos than what I'm saying. You know that. But the last thing is that he serves on the National Institute on Retirement Security, a long word, and he is an Aspen Institute Socrates. I had to say that. Society scholar. I just want y'all to know that, Socrates. So I look forward to hearing what you have to say today, Mr. Al, and so it is your turn. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Pat. I appreciate it. And thank you, North Carolina Retired. So it's a pleasure to be with you, Teresa. Thank you so much for all your hard work on behalf of retired educators in North Carolina, and all of you for your careers educating. I started my day with my son, advocating for him and talking to some of his teachers as the close of the grading period ends. And I just thank the teachers, like the active teachers, by saying it was a rough year, right? It was a challenging year. My son did well. He had some challenges, but I just wanted to thank the teachers for everything that they did in this pretty rough patch. And I think that all parents now really have a much better idea of the profession of education and how hard it is to teach, right? So I thought that was a good way to start things. So a little bit about, the NRTA. Many of you may know some of the history of NRTA. I'll be very quick. NRTA was founded in 1947. It is the precursor to AARP. It was founded by Dr. Ethel Percy Andrews, and she was a teacher in California who found a fellow retired educator who was actually living in a chicken coop. And that, she said that could not stand, that cannot be. And so she organized, and many of you on this call know how to organize. She organized, fellow educators to develop the National Retired Teachers Association, which provided and advocated for retirement security and retiring with dignity. And also outreach to the financial services companies, right? Insurance, and providing great benefits to retirees, retired educators. And now when those retired educators went home, their families were saying, well, where did you get these great benefits and this great advocacy? And what's the name of this organization, NRTA? That became, as it started to grow, and other individuals, now 50 plus, that became AARP. And AARP as an organization is devoted to advancing the issues of the 50 plus. So I'm 52. As soon as I hit 50, I got my AARP card. They sent it to me in the mail. All right. And so NRT, what do we do now? So from my time in NEA to align to the job as director for NRTA, National Retired Teachers Association, our mandate really is to serve the interests of the retired educator associations throughout the country. And what does that mean? That means advocating for your retirement benefits, right? We all know that that's a key reason for being for many of the associations, and advocating for your public pensions, retirement with dignity. And that historically has been primarily the number one focus of advocacy. When I came on board, we expanded that, right? We expanded that. So that includes now healthcare, which is a significant part of your retirement benefit. And of course, advocating for Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, those are issues that we continue to, within AARP, advocate for. NRTA follows the priorities of AARP, and where retired educators associations can collaborate with their state offices. We strongly encourage that. That's the best way to leverage the resources of your association plus that of AARP. And then where there are instances where the state office does not engage in certain advocacy, especially regarding public pensions, then NRTA provides the expertise in the council on how to go about analyzing bills, legislative strategy, campaign strategy. We come up short where I cannot go to either state house or do anything like that if the state office is not involved. But if they are not, we can provide you with counsel. And with that, I have you're one of the first association to hear that we have hired a new senior legislative representative. That individual is Adam Goldberg, who has many years at AARP, both national experience, worked on the Hill, has a lot of state experience and knows AARP very well. He also knows the retired educator community as he worked very closely with our state group. And so he'll be helping me with a lot of the pension legislation that you may be seeing in your state and also around the country. And so with that, I'll just provide you just a quick from a national perspective, what we're seeing here. So many of you know, like the president has been very much involved in trying to pass this infrastructure bill. And you may have read in the paper, that they've come to an impasse regarding that. That the discussions and negotiations continue to occur. The issue is really coming down to a couple of senators. So Senator Manchin and Senator Kristen Sinema. So Manchin from West Virginia, and Kristen Sinema from Arizona. Those are the key folks on the Democratic side of votes that will be need to be garnered if the Democrats decide to go it alone without bipartisan support. The latest is that the discussions have hit an impasse, and there are a select group of senators, a few other Republicans, Senator Collins, for example, from Maine, that have continued to work with the administration and with Democrats up on Capitol Hill to try to see if there's something they could move forward. What are the issues? One is the cost of the bill. And the initial number is like $1.7 trillion. The Republican rebuttal was in the neighborhood of $900 billion. They're going to try to figure out what kind of number they could possibly get to. The other issue is the definition of what constitutes infrastructure. So the traditional definition of that is building roads and bridges and so forth. But there's been an expansion, and there are arguments that could be made that developing caregiving infrastructure, developing broadband, which is an issue that AARP is very much involved with, expanding that as a big issue. And so these are some of the things that on the infrastructure side that the administration is working on. Specific to retirement security, there was a bill introduced in April called the Time to Rescue United States Trust Act. That was a bipartisan bill. What that did is it established rescue committees for Social Security, both retirement and disability, for Medicare Part A and the Federal Highway Program. The committees would be made up of 12 members, evenly divided between the House and the Senate, and evenly divided between parties. And so that is an act that continues to go forward. AARP has historically opposed fast-track commissions, given the lack of opportunity afforded to the public to have sufficient say in the process. But AARP believes that these commissions, much like the Trust Act, wrongly put the focus on Medicare and Social Security reforms on the national debt or solvency, rather than securing health and financial security of seniors. So that's one bill that's out there trying to develop, of which AARP is tracking as it goes forward. The other big one is something called the Secure Act, which is something that has been long. This had to do with pension reforms and changes to retirement security. And the Secure Act, what happened there is that there were some expansions to retirement security provisions. And some of the major provisions of the bills, there's both the House and the Senate version, are that it requires 401k plans to permit part-time workers to make tax-deferred contributions after 2 instead of 3 years of employment. It provides for additional time for workers to pay back overpayments. It enhances tax credits to small employers that sponsor retirement plans. This is a big issue because in many of our pension fights, what we want to try to do is expand the universe of individuals that have access to a retirement security or defined benefit plans, right? And so providing, or even if it's a defined contribution plan, some type of retirement security vehicle. And why do we want that? Because the more folks that have access to retirement security, those are folks that would help us in our fights for defending defined benefit plans. And so this is important. So the ability for small businesses to provide some type of adequate retirement helps us, those of us in the public sector, with many of our fights to defend retirement benefits. And believe me, there have been fights. We were involved in a fight in Florida recently where Florida wanted to change the defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan. We got involved in that fight and we were successful in beating that back this year. But as many of you know, if you win a battle in year 1, you could be guaranteed that in year 2 that our adversaries will be coming back to fight for changes in the pension system. The supporters of changes to defined benefit plans are very, very well capitalized and financed. One of the big funders of that are the Arnold Foundation, who you might have heard of. And so we keep an eye on a lot of the goings on of that with our partners. We work with the National Institute of Retirement Security. And many of you may have seen on the new NRTA website, if you Google, National Retired Teachers Association, AARP, we have fact sheets that we put together, and we have fact sheets specific for each state, including North Carolina, which provides very detailed information relating to your retirement plan, and also information regarding the benefit, the economic benefit of that plan within your state. We call it pensionomics. And I think you'll find a lot of that information helpful. And we also developed it in the way that you can use it when you advocate in your state. So you can use that to influence decision makers in your state. So that's an important piece, and I refer you there as you begin to defend your defined benefit plans. Again, on the Secure Act, some other provisions that it permits workers over 55 to make higher tax-deferred retirement contributions. So I think I won't go into every single nitty thing, but essentially what these bills are attempting to do is to expand or enhance the ability of Americans to save for retirement. And we were very much in support of that, as things move on. Now, it's all part of a process. Well, these bills are introduced in the Finance and Ways and Means Committee, and AARP is very much on top of these bills and advocating for that. And so those are some key things. Also on the Social Security front, there's been a bill introduced by Representative Neal that many of you may know about, what's called the government pension offset windfall elimination provision, which reduces some Social Security benefits. Representative Neal introduced a bill that makes some incremental changes to the WEP, which is the windfall elimination provision. And so that's a bill that we're also tracking too on the national level. And so those are just a couple of things that, you know, we've been watching. And also that I've noticed there was a letter or an email that came out regarding TABOR and what TABOR does. So TABOR is the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And I know that's coming up, and that's a fight that you had in the past in 2016. And I've had indications that this is coming up again in this legislative session. And essentially what TABOR does is it imposes rigid and arbitrary caps on the way spending decisions are made in the state. And that's something that, you know, that we have been definitely monitoring on the national level. And our representatives in DC will also be, you know, reaching out to the ERP state office to see where they play. I know they've been helpful in the past, but, you know, we'd have to engage in discussions to see where things stand this year. And so that's something we'll be looking at as well. So with that, I know I chatted a bit there. I'm happy to take any questions that you have, you know, any insights or anything we can do to help. I'm happy to do that. We'll make this a little bit of a Q&A back and forth on various issues. Any questions? Yeah.
All right, I understand staff is going to take care of the Q&A session.
Oh, sure.
Go ahead, Betsy. Betsy. Betsy Wells.
Unmute. Thank you so much. I'm trying to unmute.
No worries.
I finally found the button. Al, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm a part of the legislative committee for NCRSP, and I'm also the president of my unit in Cleveland County. But I just want to know more about TABOR, because I'm not familiar with that term, and that's just something that we're facing here in North Carolina with retirees.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So TABOR basically is like, so these are initiatives that our adversaries try to impose all over the U.S., right? And so what they try to do is what they're trying is lower the amount of spending or try to put caps on spending. And then what they're really looking for are tax decreases, right? And so what they do is it forces the legislature to limit investments in programs that would help sustain and grow, specifically in North Carolina. And some of those investments include none other than the school districts, right? And so that's one reason why we don't like TABOR bills, but many of some of the folks that are predisposed to tax cuts, right? Will you try to use TABOR, a Taxpayer Bill of Rights bills, to try to see if they could, you know, bring spending under control and concert with tax cuts. So that's a big thing. And then so TABOR initiatives would also make it very difficult for North Carolinians to respond to rising costs, and imposes new requirements or change economic conditions. And it's pretty severe. And that's why, 2016, I know that you had launched a campaign, to beat that back. And I would imagine that you will, start ramping that up again this year. We're happy to assist where possible on that as well.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Did not know about that at all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got it.
Catherine, you had a question?
Yes, you made reference that AARP has pension information by states for retired
Yes.
educators. What did you call that again?
Yeah, it's called, so there's state fact sheets. So there are two places. One is NRTA, you go to our website. And I could try to look it up real quick as I do it, or maybe
I actually put it in the chat, Al. I put
there you go.
the chat
Yeah.
and the email.
There you go. Teresa's terrific. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
Oh,
you.
yeah, you have it right there. Yes, you have the specific one as I look now for North Carolina. Thank you. So there you go. And so how does that happen? So NRTA partners with. So the good news is as I age and my colleagues age, you find that we're getting to be in different associations around town. So the new executive director for the National Institute of Retirement Security is an old friend of mine, Dan Doonan, who also worked at NEA. And so we collaborate together. So NRTA historically has worked with NERS for many years, but it makes it even more special since we have such a long history. We work very close together when I lobbied, and Dan is a terrific actuary and now running the NERS program. So what we did this year is we made a little change. If you look at that, if you open up that document, you'll see we try to make it a little user friendly, right? Before we used to have a lot of verbiage in there. Of course, we're talking about pensions, so you're always going to get some verbiage in there, but we try to provide some infographics as well to make it easier. It's really designed for you. You can leave this off with your state reps, right? So when you go in with your message box and your opposition to a particular bill, you can walk in there and say, you can start out with, the good that the pension system does within your state. And so that's a good thing. And then it provides real-time data on what's happening in your state. Now, the good news too, working with NERS, they're constantly crunching numbers. So very shortly, we're going to have updated numbers for you as well to use in your state house as you start to advocate for public pensions. And so I think that'll be helpful. But NERS has been a terrific champion. We also work, of course, we work with the AARP state offices on a number of things. And then where possible, some of our old friends in labor, like the National Public Pension Coalition, for example, is an excellent organization that also does some advocacy. We might get together on intelligence or share information. I also participate in a monthly call it's called the Public Pension Coalition, and it's made up of really all the national representatives of DC, of all the public sector advocacy groups. One group, for example, is the National Council on Teacher Retirement, of which NRTA has established a relationship, and NCPERS, Public Employee Retirement Systems, which are the cops and firemen. As I strongly believe that we can't go about the business of pension advocacy alone. We need to have partners, and especially as you engage in campaigns in your state. For example, in Florida, we were helpful in helping them with some relationships with cops and fire. Now, will you always see eye to eye? A lot of times what I find my experience is everybody will work together well. And sometimes the issue comes down to the COLA. So if you have a COLA fight, sometimes that's a place where, and that's fine. I mean, you could agree to disagree. You could also, work to a certain extent on your bill. And then after that, you do what you have to do. I've done that many times when I used to advocate. You work on a bill as far as you can. And if another group decides to go a different way, for example, even if our own groups, many times on COLA provisions, you may get disagreements between active educators and retired educators on the issue of COLA, because there's only so many resources to go around the state. And you just learn to navigate through those things. NRTA can also be a resource as you start to go through that regarding strategy and how you can work with your partners. And then if it comes to a point where you disagree on a certain provision, how best to navigate that. Because it doesn't mean that all is lost, and it doesn't mean you have to now become an enemy of that particular group. You just you disagree to disagree on that. But I would say I think the expansion of NRTA's partnerships and collaborations with other public sector and state employees, cops and fire, and of course within education, we can't forget the education support professionals who are so important on moving on a number of different fronts, especially on healthcare. Healthcare AARP is very actively engaged as well. There's a huge COVID-19 vaccination program that AARP, as far as information regarding how you can get that vaccine on AARP's website. And they were very instrumental. One thing was to try, where can I get a shot, right? Where can I get if you wanted the vaccine? We encourage folks to do that, but AARP was very much involved in that. And so healthcare is another area where we get involved.
Sandra, you had a question? Sandra, did you have a question?
Yes, I was trying to get my unmute button to work. I'm concerned, can Tabor be used to hog tie the pension system? Because I don't trust those people that make the rules, and they're no friends of ours. I don't care what they want to good mouth sometimes. If they get involved deeply in the pension system, I can see them deciding they want to ruin it so that we are forced into something else.
Yes, so that's exactly it, right? That's the danger. Now, if Tabor laws in some states, when they're enacted, it doesn't preclude the ability of the state reps to give you a COLA, for example. But what it does is it seeks to reduce the amount of investment in various things, right? It's putting a cap on what you can spend, say on education, for example. And that means there are less resources to go. And usually when that happens, then they seek to reduce taxes within the state. So to make this simple, what a Tabor bill attempts to do is try to limit the amount of spending, right? And I like to call it investment, right? Like you invest in education, but you could say like money and then the money available. Well, how do you get money in the public sector, right? You get that by tax policy. And so the taxpayer bill of rights seek to, when they cap certain programs, then the next thing that comes, you will see is attempts to try to reduce taxes in your state. Now, all of us in the public sector, you derive when you were active, your incomes are dependent upon tax policy, right? And then as retirees, your income is still now the key thing to remember is as we try to inform state reps is that you paid into your system, right? So in the private sector, many folks do not pay into their pension plan if you have a private pension. The company pays pretty much a big chunk, 100% usually. Although there are some companies that may have you pay 3% or so into your pension system, but generally in the private sector, the company pays for it. Well, in the public sector, many of you have paid into your system, right? So, and that was part of your compensation arrangement. And so that's a key distinction. But Tabor bills, to answer your question, they will put stresses on the state, and it can result in attempts to restrict or make changes to the pension system going forward. So that's why you definitely want to watch that going forward. Does that answer it?
Thank you. It does.
You're welcome. Yeah. If I'm scaring you, I'm doing it on purpose because I want you. Because it is something. It's the devil's in the details, right? And it's good. I know that you've identified a bill, and I see it here, SB 717, right? So you identify the bill, you analyze it, and then I know you know how to do a lot of this. You got great leadership. You develop sort of a plan. You develop partnerships. You develop like who are the key folks in various committees that might be advancing this, and then who are the key folks that oppose it, right? Now, normally you go to the folks that oppose it to get some idea of intelligence within the state capitol. They might even provide you with some good pointers on a strategy that you can use to do that. And I also will say that we within NRTA, we have a great communications consultant, Kelly Keneally, who many of you may have heard from on various trainings that we've had. Kelly's terrific. She's been in the business as long as I have, over 20 years or more. And she's a resource. So if you ever wanted to, just let me know and we can get on the horn and help you with some community. What do I mean by that? Like social media, Facebook pages, that kind of stuff. Letters to the editor. We can help with that. So those are different things, some services we could help provide. And I know you have a lot of that already that you do, but if you ever want it, we're happy to help with that and assist.
That's wonderful.
Sure.
Is there anybody else? Is there any other question? Well, seeing none, then let me thank you again, Al, for all that you have imparted to us and all the questions you have brought up into our minds, so that we will have to contact AARP NRTAs to find out some more answers. So I just thank you so very much for being here. Thank you.
Of course,
Thank you.
as I said, I'd like to, and I'll stick around because I want to hear the other speaker
Okay.
too. So, and I know I don't
Okay.
take, but I just want to say, you have a very innovative association, right? The leadership, you really, so the We Care grant program that we have, which is like a $5,000 investment, and collaboration and virtual. It was a tough year. That we're doing a lot of the Zoom stuff, and as we move forward with hybrid, we'll keep a lot of those investments, and we'll be able to provide additional programs in person at some point, and you can provide more. And I think that's terrific. So I love the fact that you're willing to, try some new things, and it's great to have a partner to do that. I want to thank you all, and especially Teresa, for a lot of the leadership regarding that.
Oh yeah, we thank Teresa too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay.
And I'll
All
stick
right.
around. I'll stick around at 2. Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. That's right. You might have to join in again. Who knows?
Sure.
All right. Our next speaker then is a little closer to home. And he is in the person of Kevin Rogers. And when I say a little closer to home, I'm talking NCAE. So he's right around the corner from our staff. And he is our government relations and communications manager. Now, prior to working for NCAE, he served as the Director of Policy and Public Affairs for Action NC. Some of us might know Action NC. His background is in public relations, political campaign management, direct lobbying experience, and of course, he has all of his bells and whistles too. His BA, Bronxville. Is that New York? Okay, all right. And JD, he's a JD or two, from Whitner University School of Law in Delaware.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Welcome, Kevin Rogers, and the floor is yours, dear.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for joining. I've been tasked with the monumental job of giving you what's going on in the North Carolina General Assembly. For those of you who follow the GA on a close basis, you know it is always exciting, never a lack of things going on there. This year is no exception. So just a little bit of background for folks who don't follow things closely. North Carolina General Assembly works on a 2-year cycle, a biennium basis. We are in our long session this year, which means they are the House and Senate are developing their budget for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, as well as the 2022-2023 fiscal year. So in theory, it is a budget for 2 years. As we know, we have not had a budget in a few years for all sorts of awful reasons. It does look like we are moving towards a proper comprehensive budget this year, which makes me very happy. Because those mini budgets were a complete and utter mess and not a way to set policy in any way, shape, or form. So that is good news. I don't want to say the good news stops there, but the good news kind of stops there. We know we have a very conservative legislature from top to bottom. And while we have been able to narrow those margins, and at least there's no more supermajorities. If we remember the supermajority days, those were truly bad days. It's still very conservative. And as far as budgets go and as far as revenues go, to Al's point, cutting taxes seems to be job number one and has been for many, many years here. And they really just advanced another pretty dramatic tax cut bill yesterday, which will more than likely end up in the budget. Whether the bill goes through and gets vetoed or not is really neither here nor there from a policy perspective. But it's pretty drastic. I mean, it lays out over the next 5 years the literal elimination of corporate taxes in North Carolina. It does do some good things for individuals, does reduce the individual income tax rate. It does raise the standard deduction, which are generally progressive tax things to do. But that's just sort of lipstick on the pig. I mean, it really does. It really would dramatically reduce revenues over the coming years. And you don't need a Tabor bill if you were just straight up cut taxes. So Tabor would, could limit it in the Constitution for future lawmakers, which is the real risk of a Tabor bill, right? But as long as we have Republican majorities, I think, tax cut will be the name of the game. And that is, of course, very destructive to all of our public infrastructure, education included. A lot of the talk around setting the main budget number for this year was about how much extra money we have. And I put extra in, sort of air quotes, right? Because we know there's no such thing as extra money when it comes to anything. But the real argument, and I mean this truthfully, the argument being put forward is that North Carolina collects too much revenue and that we need to reduce that. And that really is the game plan going forward. And that is not good for you. It is not good for active educators. It is not good for students. It is not good for parents. So that's sort of the trajectory that we're still working on. So looking at, if you look at the governor's budget, for example, which was introduced in April, I think that's a much healthier spending number. Still not aggressive by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it shows what a good use of current state revenues could be. That is not what we're going to see proposed in either the House or Senate. So the budgeting process is already well behind where it should be. Our fiscal year ends June 30th. We should have a budget in place. We will not have a budget in place by then. The Senate is introducing their budget, from what I understand, on Monday. It would probably be Monday evening if tradition holds. The House budget will be introduced likely a week afterwards, which puts us on a trajectory somewhere to be in conference by like the middle of July, probably. So if there's no more big hiccups, we'll probably have our final budget by the end of July. If there's no big hiccups, you never really know how that's going to work. I did give a handout to Teresa, and I believe it's been distributed. It came from Marge Foreman, whom I know most of you know very well. Yeah, there we go. This is a list of bills this session that really directly impact retired educators. I went through, I think, the first 2 pages and marked the ones that made crossover, which is a very small portion. Only about 15 of these bills made crossover. For those of you who don't know, crossover means if a bill originates in one chamber, it needs to be passed out of that chamber and into the other chamber by a certain date. Otherwise, it is ineligible to move forward during that session, unless it is a budget bill or something that has to do with elections or redistricting or something like that. So as you can see, there have been bills introduced to give retirees COLAs, for example, to rewrite certain parts of retirement, how certain parts of the retirement system function. None of those COLA bills passed. Some of the retirement bills passed, in fact, were just acted on in committee today, as a matter of fact. None of those are bad, by the way. They're just sort of technical restructuring. But certainly a lot of legislation does touch on retirees, particularly because of the retirement system. And so we obviously monitor that and actively lobby on those as appropriate. State health plan, of course, also very much impacts all of you. And of course, those both roll up underneath the state treasurer. And so we do our best to keep an open line of communication with them, as difficult as that may be from time to time. So if there's any questions about any of those, I mean, not particular bills, I probably don't have all the details on all of them, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them as specifically as they come up. I would not anticipate seeing a COLA this year in the budget for you. I would we may see another bonus. You know, they love doling out those bonuses. I just, like all of my colleagues, are completely guessing about what is going to be in that budget because they're being very tight-lipped and not releasing anything yet. And so we will, yes, that's correct. The asterisk are the bills that may cross over. Yes. And it's not all of them. I didn't get a chance to go through the whole document, but for those first 2 pages are those ones that made crossover.
Kevin, I think we have a question from Deborah.
Sure.
That was my question also. I wanted to know which ones had made crossover and if we had a chance of COLA, and both of them have been answered. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, is Senate Bill 717 on here?
Is 717 on there? Probably somewhere. Oh no, the Tabor bill? No.
Yeah.
Tabor bill was introduced in April. It has not seen any action. I don't anticipate it to see any action this year. They keep going. We keep hearing mixed messages on there. It seems like in the past few weeks they have decided that the tax cuts are going to be their priority this session, and that Tabor may come up next session. But we will see. That could obviously change literally any day. But that is what we're hearing, at least at this point, which, like I said, is sort of one's bad, both's bad, right? So at least it's not a constitutional amendment, so that's good. The constitutional amendments do tend to be added during election years for obvious reasons. So if one were to be added, I would expect to see it next year. Yeah. We want to pause for questions?
I think Linda Gunter had a question.
Well, Linda always has good questions.
Not necessarily at my way back, but so no COLA, but the House I heard was pushing for a COLA. So when they get down to conference committee,
right,
they might be fighting with each other over that. And
yeah,
there's also that $500 bonus, but a $500 bonus won't make it. Do you have any way of, and well, I guess answer that, and then I'm going to ask you something else.
Okay. Yeah, so certainly I think generally the House is looking to be more generous than the Senate, which for educators and for retirees, that's what we've seen the past few years. So I would expect to see more in the House budget than I would expect to see in the Senate budget. Linda's absolutely right. That will be resolved in a conference committee once both bills are announced and moved. So that's generally the process is going to take.
Okay, my other question, I mean, I just thought of this as I was called on, so I appreciate being called on. I always have a question I can come up with. We were discussing, that we've only had 3 COLAs since 2009, right, and 2 bonuses. And those are the only bonuses in the history of the retirement system. But we've already said that we're like 18.7% behind the cost of living. Mm-hmm. So they've already got the COLA chart. But we were thinking if there was some way to show like the average retiree with how much if they even take this average, which I know Pensionomics, I was just looking at it and it said it was $1,700 a month. If we just took that figure, or I think the state has one, this is like $21,024. I think it might have increased a little bit, but whatever. So we take this average of say 20,000, we could start at 15 and just go 15, 16, 17, all the way up to about 35. And then tell if they had given us a 1% COLA every year, and you take 1% of that salary, mm-hmm, and then that would be how much they kind of owe us, that they have left us out all this time, to show what we really deserve.
Yeah, no, I mean,
but is there any way that we can get help putting a chart together?
Yeah, we could probably help. I know Marge knows. Marge is a whiz when it comes to all of these pension things, so certainly we can ask her to see what she can put together. I know we've had a number of conversations with the treasurer and with some of the appropriations chairs about COLAs. There's some calculations that the treasurer's office puts out, saying that they need to be able to fully fund the COLAs and all these crazy things, which is really an excuse. I mean, they can do whatever they want to do, right? That's what that's kind of the stone wall we keep running into. And so it really is a matter of legislative will. I mean, they certainly could grant them, and there's money there to grant it if they want to do so. So yeah, I think any argument we can come up with to be persuasive, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, we can definitely try to put that together for you. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that, because if they've got $5 billion and they're cutting the corporate tax, and from what I understand, isn't that a loss of $1 billion a year?
Yep.
They can certainly come up with some money for us, because I think, what was it, a $500 bonus we had last year was 110 million for like everybody.
Yeah, no, there is money to be spent. There's no doubt about it. They just don't want to. Yeah. Any other questions?
Any more questions for either speaker?
Well, let me tell you, this is Sandra Hatley, Director 1D. The sorry rascals can't take all that money that doesn't belong to them to their grave, hauling it behind a hearse in a U-Haul. We got plenty of retirees that are living on less than $800 a month.
That's right.
Pension.
That's
Now,
right.
there is no way to survive on that. Gas is going up. Food is going up terribly. And so does the cost of repairs to homes, cost of repairs to cars. People can't even afford to keep a darn car. How are they going to get around? It sounds to me like they're trying to butcher retirees, whether they're the state employees or the teachers. I'm just fed up with them and angry as a dickens.
Yep, we're not too happy with them either, Sandra. I hear you 110%. Believe me.
Okay, Leslie and Linda both have their hands up. Leslie, go first.
I put this in the chat, but just because it's relevant right now, there was an article in the Washington Post that the calculation is that inflation has gone up 5%. I'm not sure if that is the last year, the last 6 months. I would have to go back and look at the article, but there has, within the time with COVID, there has been a 5% inflation in the country. And so 1% COLA is not going to go very far. So that just information for when you're writing legislatures, there's another piece to throw at them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I mean, the inflation, inflation's really gone up over just even the past few months. It's been pretty dramatic. And, we always talk about it for educator raises in terms of inflation adjusted raises, because they are forever saying that, this is a record amount they're giving to educators, and it is, but everything else costs way more too, right? So that's the way this should work. And that's going to affect that calculation, and it's absolutely going to affect the COLA calculation as well. And, I think the most anyone's ever really considering is a 2% COLA. And that, you're right, is still woefully, that could be chewed up in the next 6 months, right? So I think there's a really good point there.
Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess when I talk to you, I think also some catchy slogans, if anybody can come up with it, that could help us, and different things than maybe what we've been saying. And it could be about different cost increases, or just catchy kind of words that we could use when we're sending our emails out. And I think we're going to start calling the office. When we met with Dan Blue yesterday, Senator Blue said we need to hit all the Republicans in the Senate, not just the big appropriations chairs. They said hit them all and make them feel guilty and hope that maybe something will change.
Yeah.
But, but all I can say is we got to try. We can't give up. We do nothing, then they're going to say, well, you didn't want anything.
You know exactly what you're going to get if you do nothing, right? So that's absolutely true.
That's good. There you go.
Absolutely.
Okay, there is a question that's in the chat, and Barbara is asking, is there any way to expose the pots of money that the General Assembly is sitting on, like the 26 million in the Opportunity Scholarship Fund.
Yeah, there are a lot of pots of money they're sitting on. Not to mention, over 2 billion in the rainy day fund to begin with, right? So yeah, certainly we do make light of those, and I think there's more work to be done there, to be sure. And but don't worry, they'll try to spend that Opportunity Scholarship money on more vouchers. So they're quite happy to do that. And in fact, there is a voucher bill making its way through, which I would fully expect will make it into the budget as well. That would spend that money and then allocate almost 3 times that much over the next 5 years. So not only are reducing revenues, we're spending more on charters and vouchers. So that's part of the playbook, part and parcel.
It's my understanding that 26 million is leftover unclaimed scholarship money.
It is,
That
that's
has
correct.
built up over the years.
That's correct. And there is supposed to be a sweep provision that would dump that back into the general fund, and I believe they have suspended that over the last few years, where that should have been sort of taken back into the general fund, and it hasn't. So yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
But aren't they changing some guidelines or something, making them less stringent or something, so that these private schools and charters, anybody other than public education, public school educators and education can get a part of it. Anything that is out there, they will try to find a way for them to get it and keep it from us.
Yeah,
that's the way it seems.
The current bill for vouchers would expand both eligibility and funding and the amount of scholarships given. And something that I find personally offensive in there is that not only are they expanding the amount the voucher is, but they're actually indexing it to inflation, which would be great if they indexed anything else to inflation ever. I find that really offensive.
So they can do it.
Yeah, exactly. They can
do this.
Yeah, they're aware of the concept, and they agree that it works, right? And what that also does too is take this fight away from us every year as well, which is really the point of it, right? They can pass one piece of legislation, and it sort of goes on and expands itself without any sort of additional intervention, which is really smart, of course, on their part, but really makes things very difficult for us going forward. So that's what's going on.
Paulette, you have your hand up for a question.
Yes, thank you, and hello to everyone. As I understand it, maybe I'm wrong, someone correct me if I am. The reason that the monies are left over, in particular that have been set aside for the Opportunity Scholarship vouchers, whatever you want to call it, is because the demand is not there. And does that lend itself to an argument against the money sitting in that pot when they're not being utilized? Or is that just another kind of sort of rainy day fund that we will reappropriate? I'm serious. I've been processing this thing because they don't think they'll ever be voted out or in office, when they can do as they want as we decrease corporate taxes and allocate that money somewhere else. I see this as a slick shell game.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Certainly, you're correct. It is unallocated because there has been not a huge demand, and that is one of the things they're trying to fix with the new bill to have more folks eligible for it and to increase the amount going. One of the problems with the vouchers, of course, is that it's a very small amount of money. You get $2,300. I don't know if you've been shopping around for private schools lately. They cost a lot more than $2,300, right?
That won't pay for books.
Exactly.
I know. It won't pay for books. And the issue with the charter school monies is that in the law, charter schools do not have to provide transportation. And I guarantee you, one of the things that go forth and in our favor of public school education, as we deliver public school education, is that we provide transportation. So it's a
Mhm.
slush fund, as far as I'm concerned, sitting there to manipulate.
Sure. Yep.
Okay,
Okay,
I
Ms.
had my
Jones.
rant for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paulette. Joan, you have your hand up.
Yes, I guess I was not aware of the indexing of the scholarship money with the cost of living. Is that another argument that we can make for not only needing a COLA, but also if you can do it there, you could certainly do it with the retirement system.
Yes, and I can tell you, I personally have made that pitch to a number of legislators, and they certainly acknowledge that it could happen, but once again, they point to the sort of the large dollar amount that would be associated with that. And once again, it really just comes down to priorities, right? I mean, they need to they make their decisions as to where they want to spend their money. And COLAs certainly have not been one of those places. So, yeah, it is a good argument. I thought it was a good argument. They didn't seem to like it so much. So,
Okay, Miss Betsy.
I think you're on mute.
Betsy, you're on mute, hon.
I'm finally on mute. I've unmuted myself. But Kevin, thank you so much for being with us today. But I do have a question. Is there any way that NCAE could help RSP to publicize these, talking about these bills that would take away, about Tabor and also about the ones that, about our COLAs? Do you have a list of like legislators who are so opposed to giving us a COLA? I know Ted Alexander is my senator in Cleveland County, and he is in favor of it. At least he told me that. Now, let's hope he votes for it. But do we need to just go on full steam ahead and contact all of our senators like what we were talking about and just keep the pressure on?
So, yeah, from a strategy perspective, I think that's probably the best thing to do. I mean, I could probably put together a list of legislators who are more who are in favor of Tabor, or excuse me, of COLA. Sorry, too many acronyms running around here. It would be a relatively short list, and I think that those folks should be hearing from you anyway, because if the folks who are against it are hearing from you, it's more of you're trying more to persuade them. But the folks who are already in your corner, that just gives them a little bit more ammunition to say that, I'm hearing from constituents and they're saying that they need this, right? So I don't think there's a downside to that. And I would encourage you to sort of reach out to everyone and make your case, because it's not, I don't think it's a case they're hearing all that often. So I think they need to hear it more.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any more questions out there?
Thank you, Tara.
Any more? Okay, Deborah.
Well, isn't it too late for us to be doing anything since they didn't make crossover? Is there a way we can still get it?
No, there is a way. So crossover exempts all budget related bills, which is how they're going to be doing their budgets now. So anything that spends money is not restrained by crossover. So absolutely, yes, it is still very much on the table.
Great.
And if you follow the GA, nothing's really dead there either, right? You can always gut a bill and add language to it that's already passed. So really you should really never let a crossover stop you from advocating on something, because it's never really dead unless they want it to be. So.
Kevin, this was, I know we haven't had a budget in 3 years, so, I don't want to count what happened in 2019 or 2020 when, we asked for them not to pass a budget.
Sure.
But the year before that, when they did pass the budget and they did not pass for a cost of living, because that was a budget item put forth. Is there any way, have you archived the list of those senators or House that voted against the cost of living so that we can sort of advertise? Because a lot of them are still sitting up there collecting their GA money. And, you know, I think people need to be reminded that, you know, so-and-so didn't vote for a cost of living back in, say, 2018 or whenever the last big budget. And, you know, he's up there now and he's still probably, you know, what is he going to do?
Yeah, so those votes are all archived on the GA website. They're actually relatively easy to access. So if y'all would like help with that, I'm happy to help. But yeah, absolutely, that list is there, and that's yeah, I think a good idea to gently remind them what they did last time is, or not so gently remind them what they did last time is a good idea. Absolutely.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is there a way to pinpoint the areas of the state where there is the highest concentration of state employees? One would be Wake County, I assume. The area where I am, I would say the Morganton-Burke County area, because of the different state facilities that are there, along with your teachers. And it would be a way to remind the knuckleheads that represent those places that they are cutting their economic throats by not providing increases in pay and increases in retirement COLA, because if you don't give them increases, they can't spend the money. Their bills have to come first and they can't pay for other things. So is there a way to pinpoint the areas across, and I know there's others in Wake and Burke County that have high concentration of state employees, so that we've got another little tool to jab them with?
I imagine there is. I mean, so certainly state employees are, you know, public record, right? So there's a bit of information out there. I imagine Scenic has a pretty good feel for where their areas of concentration are. So it's probably can be calculated. I don't know the best way to do it. But sure, I mean, you know, certainly legislators who represent those areas of higher concentration, I think you're right, certainly are more vulnerable to those arguments. So it would be a good opportunity to target them. And I apologize, I have a meeting I am already late for, so I do need to bounce. If there's one or two more questions, otherwise I need to leave.
Paulette had her hand up before you leave, Kevin.
Sure.
Thank you. Sandra covered part of that, but what I want to say before you leave, Kevin, and also to Pat and Linda, we are doing, from what I see, a much better job of advocating for ourselves, and I would like for us to take this momentum, and I would like for us to move forward, because if we don't, they won't. And
that's true. That's true.
The bringing about of this is crucial. We all feel the time crunch, but we know now this is an ongoing fight, and it will not end. Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Okay, can we get one last question from Linda before you leave, Kevin?
Sure.
Please.
Hey, I was just going to let Kevin know that we were told by Senator Dan Blue's office that we should target not just the 3 appropriations chairs, but also Senator Warren Daniels, because of the state employees. And then they came back and told us that we should also target Senator Lee down in New Hanover County. So I brought in Barbara Anderson to help it down there, because he barely won his election.
Yeah, it was a
and
tight
then we
one.
were also working out on the pensions ladies, but Ballard's kind of a problem. I don't know how many people actually reached out to her.
Yeah.
her people don't like her too well.
Yeah, that is a problem.
But just to let you know that we did that. And the other organizations are reaching out too, but
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
fact, Sandra was the one who was supposed to be gathering the forces against Warren Daniels. So that was her job. We'll hear her report on Monday.
Okay.
Right, Sandra?
We got people that don't even know how to help themselves. Somebody didn't spoon to their darn mouths, they would starve and be happy about it.
Yeah, they would.
I
It's sad,
agree,
sad,
Sandra.
sad,
I
sad,
agree.
sad.
Well, thank you, Kevin. This has been really good, and appreciate we need to work together.
Yes.
That's really important because we can only do so much, and we kind of
Yes,
hit a
right.
roadblock here right now. So we need some help.
Sure. Understood.
Yeah, again, thank you, Kevin.
thank
And
you,
you always do. You all, NCAE, you all always do have such good information, and you're up to date on things. And we certainly do need all of us, from you, from us, and from everybody else, to try to help us with this. But I am so sorry you said that you probably won't get a COLA. Oh, that is so disheartening.
Sorry.
But I get that the truth is the light, right? The truth is a light, but I know that we are going to continue.
We're
We are
not
going to
giving
continue
up.
to try.
Yes, we're
That's
not
right.
giving up.
We are not
Will
giving,
not
no,
give
no.
up. Everybody say that together. We
We
will
will not
not give up.
up.
Again, we will not give up. Come off mute, say it one more time.
We will not
Not
Give
give
up.
up. Now we got to do it better than that together. Now togetherness wasn't all that good, but we got the same idea. So I guess that's a good thing right there.
We
All
will
right.
not
We will not
give
give up.
Wait a minute. 1,
Two,
2,
three.
3. We
We
will
will
not
not
give
give
up.
up.
All right.
I
Well,
heard y'all, so I'm going to hold you to it now.
All right. But on Zoom and all of that, everything is at a different time anyway. So we can't just come together like that. But thank you so much for everything you have. And we're going to be seeing you again. So we're thinking you right this minute, and then we'll come right back and see you again real
Sounds
soon.
good.
Thank you,
I'm sure.
Kevin.
Okay.
Thank
You're
you,
quite
Kevin.
welcome. I'll have a good one. Have a good day, everyone.
All right. So now let me just do a little summary here of the work that your legislative committee is about. And a lot of it you all are seeing that's been going on for the past weeks and is going to continue going on because, as you've just said, we will not give up. Now, your legislative committee members represent all 100 counties in North Carolina. And there are, 10 of them or so, 10 districts, regions, whatever it is. And so we just represent every county. And I hope that you or somebody in your county has been looking at all of the information that's been coming out, the Action Network information, the action, call to action information that's been coming out, the letters that's been coming out. You just got one from your president, Willie, and for you to act on that one, and you're getting one from the legislative committee to act on that. We are targeting every person who has anything to do with money in the General Assembly. We are targeting everybody who can push a button and say yes instead of no to a COLA and a bonus for us. And it looks like we are just going to have to double down, whatever that means. And we are just going to have to not give up until the very last moment when they adopt this budget that has us in it, because it just doesn't make sense for them to have so much money and to leave the very people out that help them to get to where they are. I can't say I understand it. A personal story. Linda likes personal stories. And I even heard that in the news, like CNN News or something like that. Personal story. Get up in the morning and go to your refrigerator, and for some reason everything feels warm in there. Lo and behold, the refrigerator has gone out. It's gone. Okay. Now I don't know if any of you been out look for a refrigerator lately, but they don't have $500 refrigerators and $600 and none of that, right? And if they do, it's the little kind you put in a dorm room refrigerator went out, had to go take care of that. And lo and behold, the next day or two, water heater went out. Now, I don't know if you've been to see about getting the water heater here lately, but they don't sell water heaters the way they sold them whenever probably most of us got water heaters in our establishment. Okay, then you got to have, they have to put in water heaters. That's labor. Okay, the refrigerator not so bad. You got to get one out and put one in. But true story, folks, in 1 week. Now, the pension check came, it didn't change. For some reason, somebody forgot to tell the pensioners that, look, I just lost my refrigerator. I had to buy a refrigerator and a water heater. So don't I need more money in my refrigerator? I mean, more money in my pension? I got refrigerator. I do. But did anything happen with that? Not one thing. Now, we talk about a personal story. That's a true personal story. Okay? And I'm about to replace my roof. Oh, Lord, you got lots of money. You got to pay. That's exactly right. So I just said all of that to say to all of us, your legislative committee, your executive director, your officers, all of us and friends are going to be working. And when we send these things out, when we send this information out, try to help us to help us. I even sent out one that said, maybe you don't need an increase in your check, but help me to get one in mine. If you don't need one, just help me to get one in mine. I'm serious about that thing too. Teresa I sent that to my crew. I did in my local, because we need what we're asking for. We just do. All right. Paulette has a great story. There are some good stories, and they're not stories. There are some true stories around if we would just think about it. When we had to go to the pharmacy, when we had, groceries is going up. I don't know if there's anybody, and I'm being facetious here, but I like oxtails. Do you know oxtails have gone up about 2 or 3 times since last year? I'm just saying, folks. I'm just saying. So the whole point is, though, please help those of us too who are not online, because the majority of what we do goes to the majority of what's online. We do it online. Unfortunately, we cannot get to people who are not online as quickly, because it has to happen right quick. By the time we get to folk who are not email, who don't like to use email, that particular situation is probably gone. All right. So we just got to help each other in some kind of way and get to our members. And just remember, all of us are important. All right. All of us are important. Every one of us is important. And that we need to do, we need to help us to help us. Okay. So I'm saying that as the chair for all of us, and as me, as a retired person, because I didn't know it, but I need some money in my pension too. So thank you all for attending.
Pat, before
Yes.
you conclude, Ms.
Yes.
Jackie has been going through all of her icon and reactions. Let's see if she has something that she wants to say. Ms.
Okay.
Jackie?
Go ahead.
Yes, it's so good to see all of you. And I can attest to some of the true stories that have been told. Wait until your complete house system go out, and it's chilly outside, and it's something to be said,
That's exactly.
Especially when we look at our older people that in our county, we do have some 101-year-olds who are still members. So just imagine what they are going through as retirees and have been retired for a number of years. So there are quite a few true stories that can be told by retirees, and yet they put us on the back burner.
That's
that and we they are continuously leaving us there. But the thing that we as retirees have to remember is that the pen can be put in our hand when we go to that poll to vote. But we have to make up our minds to get some of these folk out of office.
That's exactly right.
Where they need to go.
They do. They really do.
And
You
I
are
couldn't remember how to get my hand down. So that's Sarah, that's why I was going through each one, trying to get it.
Is anybody
Okay,
else,
thank you.
anything else anybody else wants to say? This is the end of our meeting. It is being recorded. You can go back and you know what? Let me ask you this, Tara. I think you'd want to send us that note. Is this something that if we, that we could, is this something that if we were having a Zoom meeting that we could play this recording at a Zoom meeting? Could we do that?
Yes.
It might be a possibility, yes.
Yeah, it's a possibility. You can replay the videos when you have access to them. Yeah. Because as a matter of fact, the 4 o'clock session today is a replay. So yes.
Okay. So maybe we could do that then, Catherine, and 6A at one of our meetings. And just so folk can just listen to what it is that we are talking about. That's what's going on.
Y'all set up a YouTube account, Teresa?
Yes.
Awesome.
And let me say one other thing about Tabor. Listen, taxpayer bill of rights, it sounds so innocent. Just remember that it sounds very innocent, but we know that there is nothing innocent about this, because when you lose your tax base, you know, do you all realize we could lose our pension? We could lose our health. We could lose anything where you have to put money, Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare, where you have to put money in it all the time. We could lose all of that. Okay. Whomever was next. Go ahead.
Linda and Catherine are the last few that we get in.
Okay.
Okay, Teresa, I know that we're going to do information on the communications section tomorrow. And are you going to talk about how to make that movie file to put it on YouTube? Teresa?
Talking about the movie file
No,
or the
If we
recording?
do a personal story, and we do like Paulette's got a great personal story about her HVAC system.
There
that
is
went out
going to
and-
be a section on but I can't there'll be a little bit, but I don't know the extent, because the person I was trying to get to do it isn't available. So I'll do the best that I can.
But if they just can record it on their phone, can then it later be converted to a movie file?
I would have to look that up. I don't know how to convert it to a movie file. I just send the videos.
Okay.
I
don't
think
have the
if you
specifics.
have it, I have to try it, but it would be like uploading your pictures into Movie Maker, which is what I use to make the MP3 file that I sent to Teresa this spring. So I think we'll have to try it, because you have to upload your music. It would be the same way as uploading your music when you make Movie Maker, or your video when you record. So I think you probably could.
Teresa,
Just a matter of working it through.
Teresa,
Yeah, like Pat
Eric did
story.
us our
We need to be
videos for us.
So you will be getting information to do that, because we need some new stories, and they need to be loud enough that people can hear them.
Yeah, did you hear what I said? Garrett did our videos.
Oh, Garrett
I
did
was
it?
trying to get Garrett to come on, but he wasn't available. So
Oh, okay.
we may have to schedule something later for him.
Gotcha.
And I wonder if he could, can he do it over a Zoom call and record us? If it was just one person showing up? I guess we have to find out.
We'd have to speak with him.
Okay.
I can't answer that question.
Okay, I'm still just trying to ask and figure it out. Thank you.
Okay, Miss Catherine.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to share, I was able to print out that overview of the retirement stuff from AARP. And on the bottom of page 2 was really powerful information about pensions disproportionately benefit rural areas. So that's a lot of us who aren't like in Raleigh or Charlotte. It says rural counties have the largest percentage of their population receiving a public pension benefit, as 4.3% of residents in rural areas receive benefits in 2018. Excluding counties that are home to a state capital, public pension benefits in rural and small town counties accounted for a larger share of total personal income than in denser metropolitan counties. I intend to clobber our legislators with that, because everybody thinks Moore County is a wealthy county, and there's a piece that has wealth, but the bulk of the county has a lot of poverty. And like you say, some of our older teachers that taught here all their lives and are now in their late 80s, 90s, their pensions are next to nothing. And consequently, their Social Security isn't in keeping. And we both know that every time we get an increase in our Social Security, what happens? Our Medicare goes up.
Yeah, and
So
medicine.
they take with one, they give with one hand and they take with both.
That's right. And
So,
taxes.
yeah, so I thought if you get a chance to print that out, has really good information on it. Thank you, Teresa, for telling me how to capture that. And I think there's information there that can be a real benefit for us. But that part about the rural counties just hit me hard. So even because before I was here in Moore County and Cumberland, before that, I was in Rutherfordton working in Polk. So I've worked in urban and rural, and I know it's a fact. Thank you.
Excuse me, Catherine, I hate to say this, but there's some people in the poor counties, because I grew up down east, that don't know what shape they're in. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah,
They don't know.
exactly.
They're so used to living as, or as was. They don't
Exactly.
know.
Okay.
Wouldn't you like to know how many teachers, retired teachers, qualify for food stamps?
I tried.
I'm right with you. This week it was the
Yes, we
stove.
need to find that out. No, we
Good
need
question.
to find
That's
that
a good
out.
data
That's a
collection.
good selling point.
And you know, trying to get what is that during the summer? Unemployment
Right.
insurance, because unemployment, because we really truly are not employed 12 months a year.
Nope. But we
Or,
eat 12 months.
or who received Meals on Wheels.
Right.
You know, that's a good data point to collect that data. So then because then you have the facts and the figures to put in front of people.
Like a survey.
Good idea.
Yeah, be a survey that would have to go out and then people could respond anonymously.
Won't respond.
Oh, that's a good idea, but that has to be publicized to the public, not to the idiots in the legislature, because they don't give a.
No, Sandra, but it would be good data for us to have on the membership.
Yes.
Not only to legislate, but to know what the needs of the members are.
Exactly.
But a lot of the ones that you probably would need to get would not be online.
But you could do a mail-in survey. I did that when we were doing our directory, because I did an online, Google form where they put it in whether they did or didn't want it, if they were online. And then the ones that didn't have internet, I just made a copy of it and sent it to them and gave them a pre-stamped envelope. And they sent it back.
That's what I'm saying, that you'd have to put a lot of, little more effort. It wouldn't just be just that simple. Just got to put a little more effort into it. That's all.
Yeah. But even so, with the internet, you'd probably still have the majority of your population, I would think. I mean, Teresa would know, the proportion of email access versus non. Is that more than half? Is that 70% of the population of the membership? Do 80% of the membership have email? I mean, if you have a great number of email access, then you could just use that. If it's greater than what your non-email people are.
I just sent out information to our roster of our members, and I haven't gone back to look at all of the failures. That's not to mention the failures, and not to mention the ones where I just don't have email addresses for anyway. Yeah. But I don't know what that will equal up to, but I've got a long list to go back and look at. And some of them might be just needing updates,
Well, that's what we're working on. But I know Teresa has the big database, or NCAE does, the roster, so they could figure out the percentage of email addresses versus non-email addresses. What's the ratio?
It's 27%, Barbara.
27% have email or don't have email, Teresa?
Do not have
Do
email,
not.
approximately
Okay, well, see,
27%.
that's the majority of your people have email. So yeah, that's a pretty good number to do a survey on, to get data back.
Just because you have email doesn't mean that you read it, but yes, I agree with you.
But we can't worry about that. You know, you have to go with what you have.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, but I think knowing what our members are, the number of our members that are in poverty, that, you know, like that are receiving food stamps, are receiving Medicaid, some kind of housing assistance or whatever, I think that would be valuable data to move forward, to not only to legislate, but to know what the needs are.
I believe we need to target that 27% by mailing, because they most likely are the very individuals we're talking about.
That's true. And it's not a huge percentage. We could figure some mailing type system or something, or yeah, I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. I don't want to take up Teresa's time. We're already over. That's
Thank you.
something I think we should talk about eventually, because you need to know, that's what I tell my members. We need to know what's going on so we can help you. If we don't know what's going on with you, we can't help you.
Or we could always do it by local.
Well, we could.
As a
Have the
matter of fact,
president
people
send it out.
probably would take it better from local because they sort of know folk rather than
have the
just,
president send it out.
yeah.
Yeah, have the presidents, but it needs to be the same survey across.
No. What you would do is do one survey. Hopefully we can keep it to 10 questions or less.
Definitely less.
You give it to the presidents, and then they would know the best way to send it to the members, and to get it to get the responses.
Get a response.
And then we get the responses back and collate.
Right.
And you can do it anonymously unless they want to put their name in it. You really can.
Exactly.
I think we just have to have gender. I think we need to know how many males versus females.
Basic demographic information.
Basic demographic information. That's right, Teresa. Basic demographic information.
And then we can incorporate, as Sandra suggested, reaching those by phone or mail to also contribute to the survey as well. But we need to hear from our members. We need to listen to our members, and then we also need to propel our members to action.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what we try to do.
Well, they've been so disconnected this last year that the action piece isn't there for them right now, because we haven't done anything in a year. So once we get back to face, and as the locals get more active, I think you're going to see more participation. That's my hope. Knock on wood.
It's a good hope.
Yes, it is. All right. Okay, I see a YouTube. Thanks, Teresa.
Any other good tidbits? Anybody? Yeah, you and a whole lot of the rest of us too. Well, it's been a good meeting, I think. And thank all of you. Thank the folk who put it on, and the folk who kept us going, and the folk who got the speakers, and those of you who spoke, and everything. Thank you so very much for being here today, and see you all tomorrow, some of you tomorrow.